Hi everyone, it's Geoff and Lauren here from discoverdouble-bass.com. That's a website all about the double bass, so if you want to learn more about this instrument, please go and check that out after this video. Today we're talking about memorising music, and we've got a great question from Steve. So he's saying that he's playing with several different jazz combos, and despite learning or playing some of the tunes for years, we're all pretty much dependent on the dots. Part of it might be the comfort of hiding behind the music stand, but I feel that real bands know their stuff and therefore can communicate better with the audience. Any tips or guidance on how to commit music to memory and develop confidence in performance? So, great question, Steve. Thanks for sending that in. And it's a huge topic. You know, we'll try and give you some really practical ideas here. But just to start off by, I'll just maybe jump in and say my experience is that I see this a lot, you know, particularly in jazz where there isn't that much information to memorise in a chord chart, especially because there's so much repetition. You know, if you're often the structures are A, B, A, so the A section will repeat twice, there'll be a variation, and then there'll be a final A section, maybe with a different tag at the end. And when you start breaking it down, you really shouldn't be using charts to play jazz standards, really, because, you know, or certainly jazz standards that you've played before regularly. However, you know, I'm guilty of it. There are certain tunes that I'm not 100% on. You know, I know a lot of music, I know a lot of tunes, but there's a lot of tunes that I'm kind of half know. And I think just to give you some tips with that might help you, I think one of them is to start breaking it down into sections. You know, the AABA type thing. Start to think about key centers. Like, for instance, Have You Met Miss Jones? I know that like the bridge is like a 2-5-1 into B flat major. And then there's a 2-5-1, I'm not sure, is it in D major, and there's one in G flat major. I think it goes in the other order, actually. But essentially, I'm thinking about those key centers when I reach that bridge, which is one that I think everybody always gets a bit fuzzy with, because the A sections are so straightforward. They're all pretty much in F. You just blast through F for, you know, for a while, and then you reach the bridge, and all of a sudden you're having to focus because you've got these, these different key centers. So, yeah, it's like B flat. Now I'm starting to question myself. B flat, G flat, and then D major. I think the point is
you're gonna have so many people that are.
I know, and then it's like G flat, and then there's a 2-5-1 back into F. I think that's right.
If Geoff is wrong, and you know Geoff is wrong, make sure to comment under this video.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think of if there's any more tunes that I really don't know that I can talk about. But the point is that it helps me to break down those into like, rather than thinking about all the individual chords. You know, I think about the movement there. A tune like Take 5, the bridge that's different. People often, you know, get a bit fuzzy about that, and I think about the movement, the Roman numerals, like, you know, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, 1, and then 4 and 3, whatever. So that really helps me in terms of memorizing chord charts. And I think that the main thing is whether you're playing whatever type of music you're playing, the more that you can get your head out of the chart and you can start interacting with the musicians. I mean, and particularly in jazz where it's an improvised collective thing, and we're really trying to put our attention into the other players. I mean, to be fair, it's the same with all music, isn't it, really, I guess? But, you know, but yeah, in jazz, I just think it's so important. Get your head out of the chart and close the chart. You know, I bet you know more than you do. And look for just remember key points, key chords where something weird happens. You know, look for, you know, for breaks from the norm. If you've got a tune that's really, you know, most of them are pretty straightforward. And then there's a little bit of something that changes, and, you know, try and remember that little bit of something that'll help you. Also think about the melody will help you keep your place within the tune. You know, I mean, there's a lot of strategies. Well, how about you, Lauren? Because I always think with learning solo repertoire, you're learning huge chunks of music, and that is, I've always been blown away by people that can learn, you know, concertos. I just think it's absolutely amazing, you know, to do it by memory.
Yeah, well,
maybe give us some ideas about how you go about it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me about memorizing music is that it's a visual thing, first and foremost. And I've always found that if I've tried to memorize something using my muscle memory, I have invariably failed just so much more than if I try to memorize it by sort of remembering what the music looks like. So to give you an example, let's just take the prelude to the first Bach cello suite. That's something that everybody knows, everybody. And so you know how it goes, right? You're going to remember what it sounds like, and you might remember what it feels like in your muscle memory, but that's a dangerous piece where, you might rely on, remembering what it sounds like and think, oh, well, I know it. It's fine. But, you know, if you can't visualize what the notes are on the page or what that page looks like, then I think you're going to have a hard time
So you're
memorizing.
visualizing the dots. You're visualizing
Yeah,
the
absolutely,
notation.
absolutely.
Okay.
And I remember having the reason that I sort of had this realization, because I was trying to figure out why I was memorizing some things so well and others not as well. And I remember I had a music history teacher actually tell us that we were on that conversation, and he was talking about how, it's so much more effective if you can have that visual aid in your head when you've got the piece memorized, that you can sort of go back to. Because if you just rely on that muscle memory, like I said, that's so easily disturbed, but if you have that picture in your head, at least, you don't have to have every single note. But what I do is I sort of remember the shape of where the notes go and what they do. And that helps a lot. And then also having sort of cues, in your head. Like there are some pieces where, a theme might be repeated over and over and over again right after each other, but they might be a little bit different. And, you might have to do something a little bit differently with, I don't know, a couple notes. There's a piece by Schubert called the Arpeggione Sonata. And the last movement is like that, where it's got this theme that just repeats over and over and over again, but it changes ever so slightly with every single one. And so what
Yeah,
I would
'cause
do there is, no, go ahead.
yeah, so you're remembering the differences, aren't you? You're like that's
Exactly.
rather
Yeah.
than the actual specific phrase. It's you're
Uh-huh.
remembering what makes it different.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, and that's similar to what you were talking about, But even just having that word of there's one part of the piece where the phrase goes up, and then it does the same exact thing except it goes down. And so even just saying to myself, okay, second up, fourth down, that kind of thing, that helps a lot. And also, the way that I memorize pieces, I memorize everything. I really do not feel comfortable getting up on a stage and performing something unless I have it completely memorized, like the back of my hand. And there will be cases where I just would rather play it safe because it's like a huge sonata and I haven't just had the time with it that I'd like. But in general, I memorize everything, at least eventually. And I do a lot of repetition in my practice, and that helps a lot. And I always have the music in front of me. So I'm seeing it every single day. And I might not be looking at it every time, but it's at least in my peripherals, And so I can see that shape. And that just, again, helps with the visual.
It's really
So
interesting.
that's what I do.
And so
Yeah.
when you're preparing for a performance, do you then take,
hmm
whatever movement you're working on and close the book and then just play, or
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, that's a big part of it. About 2 to 3 weeks before the actual performance, I'll make sure that I'm playing it at least once, more if I can, without any music at all in front of me. Because I think the stand is a crutch too. I really do. I think that's like a security blanket. So I'll take it completely away and just sit and play the whole piece. And if I can do that every day without a memory slip, then I'm good. And if I do have a memory slip, it's not going to be the second to last day after 3 weeks of doing that kind of practice. So yeah, memorizing it's sometimes it happens so easy, and sometimes it's just like such a chore to remember. But the visual cues, at least, that's the key for me.
Yeah, I kind of visualize it on the bass a lot. I think it's just the way
Yeah,
that I sort of
yeah.
visualize kind of what I'm playing on the bass, and I don't know, it's
And I think that's different than
yeah,
muscle memory. I think that's totally different because you actually are having a visual kind of thing rather than just remembering the motions that your body makes.
yeah,
You know, I really think that just seeing it, being able to see it in your mind helps so much. And I don't have photographic memory or anything close to it. It's just that I am a visual person, but no matter what kind of person you are, it's just.
I'll tell
It's
you
the
what,
safest way.
I know what's going to happen next is that whatever gig I do next, any of my friends get to see this, they'll be like, right, Geoff, give me that bass book. You know, they'll be putting it away in the corner. Come on,
Yes, right.
let's play 20 standards by memory, and they'll be like, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
But yeah, it's no, it's a great topic, and you know, thanks for your questions, Steve. I mean, we could talk about this all afternoon,
Yeah.
but we better get on and do some other things. So yeah, I hope that helps you, and of course, join us in the comments and let us know what you think, because I think it'd be great to hear what everyone else does. I mean, I'm really thinking about this now. I'm going to go and memorize some music and experiment with how I'm recalling it. It's something I've not really thought about too much in the way that you're describing it. So yeah, I'm going to go and give that a try. So thanks, Lauren, and thanks for your questions, Steve. We'll see everyone next time.